Hello everybody, how are you? Happy Friday. Let's call this shadow work part 2. It's a carryover from yesterday. There's going to be a couple, there'll be a theme about shadows. Because once you heal your shadows, the possibilities in your life are endless. Once you figure out what keeps getting in your way and why you can't seem to, you see your goal, you know you can get there, but you're just, something gets in your way. Once you heal that, I'm telling you, it's like the angels sing and the universe just opens up a path for you. So, carrying a conversation on yesterday about there being a conference on our date, etc., etc. So, I moped around. I was a little mopey mope. And on my way to lunch yesterday, I said, okay, Karen, you have till 5 p.m. today to mope. And then mope time's over. Let's get your shit together and get going. So I get to lunch with somebody and she sits down and she goes, listen, I have a great proposal for you. And it was like something I had been trying to do with the association for a long time, but didn't have the space to do it. And by having this event happen over here, it created the space over there. So great outcome. I'm very happy about it. But I also had to sit with, where does this shadow come from? Going back to why tall men intimidate me, why I shrink, like I think the saying goes, a cheap suit or something. Now I can go as far back and see where it is, but we're not going to go into the muck and the cuck of, abuse. But you can have these shadows and they'll be sitting quietly in the background. You won't even know they're running until something lights them up. It's like a light switch. And this is my view of it. It's like somebody flips a light and all of a sudden the shadow starts raging through your life. And for my issue with tall men and how they intimidate me and how I shrink, it goes back to, and I'm going to condense the story way down, back, many, many years ago, I worked at this technical school, tech school. I was on my way back to my office. The CEO asked me if I would take some paperwork over to the head of admissions. Absolutely. Head of admissions was a very tall guy, probably 6'2", Navy guy. Everybody loved him. He was a funny guy. He had great stories. So I walk up and there's obviously people around him, which is common for him, as he's regaling them with tales. So I stood there because I didn't want to interrupt him and say, here's some paperwork from Maryland. I stood there. And all of a sudden he looks over at me and he's like, why are you standing there with such a stupid look on your face? This joke's funny. And I just looked at him and I was stunned because first of all, I didn't know I had a stupid look on my face. And second of all, I really wasn't listening because I came in at the end of the story. And I stood back and I just handed him the envelope and my boss is standing there in the crowd and he's like, hey, back off, Glenn. And they get into it. From that point on, Glenn made it his mission to punish me for, and this is my words, I'm sure it wasn't his, but 2-3 months later, they let me go. And, I run into my old boss down the road and he's like, you just made an enemy out of Glenn. And I'm like, but what did I do? He said, nothing. Because that's how Glenn is. And it's back then, it was excusable, but that lit that shadow up. And from that point on, when I would get around tall, big guys, I would step back. Now, when you're running an association and starting an association and you have to go to tall, big guys for donations, it created a lot of disconnect for me, which I didn't realize, and this is how shadows are, there was a pattern. I was missing the breadcrumbs to see what the pattern was until this week or last week. And that's how the universe is. And that's how when you start healing your shadows, how it works. You start seeing the smaller shadows, kind of the easier shadows, before you get to the big, huge, mucky ones. But once you start healing them, things shift in a monumental way. Because now, and the funny thing is my husband's 6'3". So, and I said to him last night, I said, do you feel like you ever intimidate me? And he's like, well, no. He goes, but I kind of know when you back off. He goes, if we're arguing or discussing something, if I step forward, you'll step back and shut down. And I'm like, well, why didn't you ever tell me that? He's like, well, I didn't think it was important. I just knew that to be respectful, he would back off. He'd just be like, let's talk about this later. He said, because I could just see the shutdown happen. So, I wish this would have been brought to my attention before, but shadows aren't ready to heal until you're ready to heal them. So this shadow would never have been healed any other time, but this time was just a perfect time. So if you're looking to heal your shadows, because trust me, we all, now men do too, I'm sure, but my focus is on women. We all have these shadows that hold us back. Look for the patterns that you run. So when you sit back and say, why does this keep happening over and over? It's a shadow. Or why will I not take that next step? Why will I apply for the job, but I don't get it and I'm okay? Or why don't I, pick up the phone and call this really important person for lunch? Any of that stuff. Those are shadows. And as women leaders, they hold you back. They'll keep you right here. I mean, when I look over my career and realize if I would have been aware of this shadow a long time ago, I would have not been trying, taking the long way around things. Because it'd be like, well, I don't, that guy doesn't like me. It was always, that guy doesn't like me. It wasn't, he intimidated me and scared me. So when you're looking at your shadows, step one, look at the patterns that you're running. Get your notebook. This is my notebook here. I know I used to keep my journal online, but I think it's better if you write it. It just, to me, more cathartic. So I write the stuff down now, and just write down the patterns that you see. And anytime you run into something and you think, why did that happen, or why did I react like that? Write it down, and eventually you'll see the patterns. And once you recognize the patterns, then we can start healing it. So this was part 2. Tomorrow we'll talk about more how to find shadows, how to seek them out. Because as women leaders, and I keep saying this because I want you to hear it, and repetition is the king of memory. The more you hear something, the more you get it locked in, and you get it. And sometimes you're going to sit there and you're going to be like, oh, that's a pattern. Karen's right. I'm running this pattern. Where's it come from? So we'll talk tomorrow on what to do once you discover your patterns. But get out a book, a notebook you can carry. I mean, I have a smaller one too that I throw in my purse sometimes. You want to start tracking shadows, because as you heal shadows, you're going to see your income go up. You're going to see your job responsibilities go up. You're going to see all kinds of changes in your life in a very powerful, powerful way. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. If you're watching this in my group, Possibilities University, fantastic. If you're not, you want to become a member, it's a free group. I want everybody in this world to understand all that is possible in your world the minute you believe it, the minute you accept it, the minute you embody it. And I love that word. The minute I started embodying all the possibilities, the minute I started embodying myself as a powerful female leader, things started really shifting. So here's to you. Hope you find your blue rose. Let me know how I can help you guys. Put it in the comments, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great Friday. Take care. Bye-bye.